We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. And boy, the chats are full. Man, if we're like 40 seconds late, you guys are on it. Frazier, what a wonderful day in Boise, Idaho. Glad to have you. Let's see. I love chicken. We got Ron, the chicken choker over here. Not a euphemism either, by the way. Pony Boy, good morning. Pray the Rosary Daily. Hi from Encinitas, California. We got California. We got Boise. Let's see. Pony Boy, you love chicken. I love eggs, but which came first? That is a dang good question. Probably the rooster.
I asked my daughter that the other day, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And she was like, she had no answer.
I wonder if there's like a judgment call you could make about someone's moral philosophy, the chicken or the egg. I don't know. Chantini, good morning from Michigan. Pony Boy in Texas. John Atakis, hello from the basement. Who's it? Mark Levine or someone? Broadcasting from an undisclosed bunker deep in something. It's
Broadcasting live.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed bunker. Oh, fun stuff. We are broadcasting live from a barn.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad you're here, and I know why you pile in bright and early into the chats to say hello. It's because you're here for the simultaneous sip, and all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. This morning, I got my reusable cup full of coffee, and join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better. It's the simultaneous sip, and it starts right as soon as I check my sound now.
We are winning. I'm not tired of winning yet, but we're winning. And not only the speaker, but the attorney general, the FBI director, and the president himself and the vice president, they're taking a big loss this week because after months of fighting, I am winning this week with Frocon. We are winning. I'm not tired of winning yet.
Might have been the worst political idea Thomas Massie ever had to take on Donald Trump head to head. And that was his attitude around the Epstein stuff, as his ex-girlfriend said, right? It was like, it was to hit Trump. It wasn't to disclose a bunch of billionaires. In fact, he hasn't read a single billionaire's name out on the on the House floor who should be indicted. He just named off some random guys that are completely innocent. Doxed him and had him getting hate mail. Oh, man. Yep. Massie went down yesterday. We'll be talking about that in here in just a little bit. Just me, Pacific Northwest. Oh, happy day. I want to know where you're at in the Pacific Northwest every time I see that. Marizel. Hello, Taylor and Ron. Hello. Carlitos. Hi, everyone. Seattle weather in Houston today must be the 2 weeks of chemtrails we had. Probably was. Frazier, I asked ChatGPT, the first true chicken likely hatched from an egg laid by a nearly chicken ancestor. Probably. That's probably exactly what happened. Yep. All right. So let's take a spin out to California, where Karen Bass did an interview on CNN, and she's a communist.
When you talked to Jake Tapper in 2023, you said that your goal was to end street homelessness in LA by 2026. It's now 2026.
And we haven't ended it.
We have not ended it, and we're not close to ending it. How are you so off?
Well, basically, when I said that, it was at the beginning of my term. I am very committed to achieving that goal. I didn't anticipate some of the bureaucratic barriers that I would experience, but I am.
But you're the mayor.
Prepared to take those on now. And let me just give you an example. Los Angeles made a decision probably 25 years ago to not address street homelessness, to focus solely on building. And granted, I have fast-tracked 42,000 units of affordable housing, but it still takes a couple of years So basically, the policy of LA City and LA County was we could accept street homelessness as long as we were building. We didn't anticipate the problem metastasizing. In my 3.5 years, for the first time, 2 years in a row, street homelessness has decreased in our city.
Yet it's increased in San Diego. It's increased in all the places that they're busting them to. Homelessness, it's interesting. If you're homeless and you hang around long enough, you can get a bus ticket to just about anywhere you want.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, we got people coming from Texas to Seattle. We got people coming from Seattle to Bremerton. They finally decreased homelessness in Seattle. Bremerton's on the rise, though.
Oh, yeah.
One ferry ticket away, and you're in Bremerton, right off the ferry terminal. New homeless encampments.
Yeah, it only costs like $10 a person.
LA, shipping them off to other places. It's amazing. It's really amazing what they can do when they set their mind to it.
Hadn't been a decrease before. That is a quality of life issue that impacts all Angelenos. Whether you are unhoused or whether you run a business and your business can't function because there's tents outside, whether you're a parent that's trying to navigate through tents to get to school, or whether it's residents where it has decreased the quality of life. So this is a problem that all Angelenos experience, and we have got to have a commitment that this has to end. The city and the county never made that commitment before, and I found something that surprised me. I found a lot of people who work internal in this system who were very resistant to ending street homelessness.
That's interesting. I wonder why they would be resistant to ending street homelessness.
I don't know.
For all the billions of dollars they spend to fix the problem? Oh, my goodness.
Shocking.
But you promised that it would go away 100%, and it's only gone down about 17.6%.
Right.
So why should people trust you that you're going to be able to get to the 100%?
Because let me just tell you, for the first time, we've had a decrease at all. There was not a decrease before at all because there was no commitment to get rid of street encampments. And we had encampments all over the city. So I would ask for people's trust in the sense that we have absolutely made progress. We know what we need to do now to end street homelessness. We need to end the failed policies of the past, which is all we're going to do is focus on building, and we are going to ignore street homelessness. That is what the city and the county has done for years.
We're going to ignore
Ignored
it.
street
Okay.
homelessness.
So are you going to do any building?
Bust
That
out
takes years.
Bust out the ticker tape. It's over.
So the irony of this is it's like, okay, if you, again, I've spent some time down in Brazil with the poorest of the poor. I've spent some time in some, slummy areas. I've spent some time in prison where a lot of people have been homeless before. And one of the things you'll find when you talk to them is A, they're mobile, they move. And the second thing is when the homeless population gets to the point to where they can't find space for their tents, they just move out into other areas. So sure, LA has seen a 17% decrease in homelessness. The state hasn't seen a decrease. All that means is people are moving out into the suburbs, the areas just outside the city lines. It doesn't mean that the homeless issue has been addressed really at all. As she said, there was resistance inside of the office to get rid of it. Why? Oh, I don't know. Funding for homelessness, and you've got grift and all kinds of stuff. We've played on the show recently how people that are supposed to put that money to use, that one guy was like, I'm whistleblowing on the people because they're taking the money. I don't know where it's going. It's missing. It's definitely not hitting the streets. What else are they getting? What else did we find out this last week? We just indicted someone for illegally signing up homeless people as registered voters and having them sign initiatives. Of course, the city wouldn't want to get rid of a nice little controlled marketplace of voters and ballots that they can have, right?
Yeah, especially when it only costs you a few cigarettes or a few bucks.
Yeah, all the incentives are for them to keep the population high. So it's rich for Karen Bass to get up there and be like, well, for the first time ever, we've seen a decrease. Yeah, but not in the county and not in the state, which means you're not actually solving homelessness. You're moving them. Just like Seattle is.
I was trying to think of a good analogy, and what I came up with, this is pretty bad, but this is what I came up with. This is like they're playing Twister, but you just don't have anything on the green dots. All your hands and feet are on the red dots. But you're all still on the Twister board.
You're all still on the Twister board. Just me, Pacific Northwest. You're Indianola. Wow, you're a local. That is awesome. I'm gonna have to have you come into the studio or something sometime. All right, very fun. Okay, now let's take a journey across the country, kitty corner from LA, head all the way up to New York, and Mayor Mamdani, who faces a massive budget shortfall after promising free everything from healthcare to grocery stores to buses and all that kind of stuff. Well, he's on bended knee asking rich people to stay and pay their fair share.
Of yesterday afternoon, meeting with executives that make New York City the financial capital of the world. Mamdani's office sharing with Fox Business that he met with JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon at their new headquarters in Midtown, saying that the pair discussed how the public and private sectors can collaborate to deliver both excellent public goods and a thriving city where all New Yorkers can succeed. From JP Morgan's perspective, they said the meeting was constructive and included the importance of keeping the city competitive. Because JP Morgan has already...
AKA don't raise taxes on rich people because our rich people that we employ are not going to want to live here.
So are we sending all of our millionaires from Seattle over there?
No, they're all moving to Idaho.
I thought maybe Katie and Mamdani were, coming up with a deal.
Yeah.
Already been signaling with their hiring moves that they are more optimistic about other markets like Texas. The firm has reduced their headcount here in New York and now has more employees in the Lone Star State than in the Big Apple. Now, Mamdani also met with Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon at Gracie Mansion, but neither the city nor Goldman Sachs has given Fox Business a statement on how that meeting went.
I don't think it went very well.
These talks are the latest efforts by Mamdani to make nice with the business community as he continues to push initiatives like city-run grocery stores, his second one announced just yesterday, and massive tax increases on second homes and cash purchased homes. Mamdani also reached out to Citadel chief Ken Griffin, who he called out personally over his second home in New York City. You made mention of that. Citadel telling Fox Business that Griffin welcomes serious conversations about the policies that can grow the city's economy and that, quote, reckless political theater serves no purpose. But neither the mayor's office nor Ken Griffin have said anything about when or if that meeting would happen. Harris?
Oh, this is glorious. So,
man, if somebody wants to start a channel, you could set up and post up around one of those city markets. Just hang out. You'll have a channel.
just
you know what I mean?
People coming in and out.
Yeah. Just show what they got available. And maybe maybe you could have a website that shows how much money they get from the state so they can look like they're open and have stuff.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Communism doesn't work. It's never worked anywhere it's been tried.
No.
Everywhere that you have communist leaders that, can run a city, it's because of the inertia of residual capitalism and fair markets and meritocracy and things like that, which ultimately prevail every time. However, when you have situations like Karen Bass, who's now kowtowing, and she's, we're going to cut red tape and we're going to increase housing and we're going to do all these. That's not communism. I thought we were going to do communism. How about Mayor Wilson in Seattle? Oh, millionaires who leave. Bye. Totally backtracking now, by the way. Totally backtracking. Right. I've got a long clip from Brandy Cruz going over her more recent, oops, I didn't mean to do that. And now they're really coordinating her media strategy so she doesn't say stupid stuff like that. Right. Mayor Mamdani, who's like, we're going to do all this great stuff. I have a huge budget shortfall. Please don't leave the city. I need more taxes. And now he's going down on bended knee to all the capitalists in the city being like, what can I do to keep you here?
And begging money from the state.
Exactly. It always fails every time. It's good intentions, but when you actually get down to it, when you try to manipulate the free market, when you try to manipulate capitalism and meritocracy, it's a lose-lose.
It's almost good that we had these two win because now we can watch in real time the whole thing just fail.
Yeah, and there's lots of these communist mayors around the country, and for the most part, they're going to coast on the inertia of their cities.
Yep.
However, when they get enough power, like Karen Bass, obviously here, with a big part of her city, the Palisades, burning down, and you're just standing there like 4 or 5 years, maybe?
I wonder if the Palisades burning down and some of the other communities, I wonder if that was enough to reach 17%.
if you don't have the space, the people, you can't let them, they're not going to sleep in the Dust Bowl that's the Palisades right now. So yeah, maybe they've all skirted out to the outskirts of town. They're over in Westlake or something.
Yeah,
like that,
solution.
Right? Absolutely. So we're going to take a little entertainment right now. We're going to watch a clip from a TV show called Young Sheldon. Have you heard of this show?
Yes.
It's based.
Beautiful. It's
a great little show. Okay. So Young Sheldon here, super intelligent polymath. He's the Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. This is like the prequel kind of thing. Anyways, so he is standing outside of a grocery store because his local bakery has been bought out by a larger company and they're making the bread cheaper. And he doesn't like that. So this is how it always goes for people. Good ideas, bleeding hearts, good intentions always ends this way.
Excuse me. Would you like to sign my petition against Happy Hearth Home Bakeries?
Maybe on the way out.
Excuse me. Would you like to sign my petition against Happy Hearth Home Bakeries?
Maybe on the way out.
Mr. Givens!
Hello, Sheldon.
Meemaw, this is my science teacher, Mr. Givens.
Nice to meet you.
This is strange. I never think of you as existing outside of school.
Well, it turns out I do.
Did you ever have this experience with teachers in school where you'd run into them outside of school and you're like, you're not a robot that just teaches all day? Did you ever have that experience?
Yeah, I had that. I've had that a couple of times. And one time it happened at church.
I've had people say that when they meet me and they're like, man, I watch you on the podcast all the time. I never think of you not sitting in a chair. Like, right. I'm like, yeah, I'm a real person. Okay, so.
And you're here buying food.
I am.
Fascinating.
All right. Well, I'll see you on Monday.
Wait, would you like to sign my petition against Happy Hearth Home Bakeries?
What have they done?
They're making their bread faster and cheaper to save money.
That's terrible.
It is. Would you like to sign?
I would.
Excellent.
I'll get you on the way out.
Thank you. Well, that's one.
Yeah. How many is that?
13.
A baker's dozen. What do you say we pack up and head out of here?
No, we have to wait for Channel 7 News.
Channel 7?
Yes, I called them this morning and told them there was a human interest story at the supermarket.
What story?
Classic Americana, little guy versus corporate greed.
Honey, Channel 7 is not coming.
You Sheldon Cooper? Yes, ma'am.
You gotta be kidding me.
How's my hair look?
So this is how it always starts out, right? Corporations making too much profit. That's not fair. It's hurting the little guy. Corporate greed. We need to take, now the next step would be to take their money. Right?
The only problem with this is the American way.
Yeah, it's the American way. This is what we call the whiplash effect.
Hey, how'd it go?
Great, turn to Channel 7.
I'm watching the game.
But I'm going to be on Channel 7.
What's he talking about? He's gonna be on Channel 7?
I was shocked to learn that the Happy Hearth Home Bakeries had been bought out by the Domestic Food Corporation, and they started making their bread faster and cheaper.
And you don't like that, do you?
No,
And you're collecting signatures to make them stop.
I am. Corporations shouldn't be allowed to make these decisions on their own.
Well, who should?
The people who eat the bread. This wouldn't happen if there were centralized control over all these big corporations.
Are you suggesting a communist form of government in Texas?
I suppose I am.
Hang on a sec. There you have it. Local boy Sheldon Cooper says communism is what Texas needs.
Oh, dear God.
And that's how it begins, right? If we just had central control, we could punish these big bureaucrats. And then next thing you know, you don't have bread, and you're begging the bread makers to keep making the bread cheaper and faster. It's a full cycle there. Yeah, communism is what Texas needs. I love that. All right, so let's move on to election news. So last night we had quite a few primaries around the state. Donald Trump, 21 of his endorsements, which I believe is the full slate of his endorsements, all won their primaries last night.
Whoa.
All won their primaries last night. Now, normally when you have a lame duck president like Donald Trump, who's not lame nor a duck, right? They typically don't have, first of all, they don't weigh in on primaries, right? That's not the tradition, because if they lose, that's kind of a grassroots thing. It's a lot of that primarying gets done in these small little boutique meetings and county meetings and things like that.
Well, and typically how do midterms go? I don't know.
They flip the other direction,
Yeah.
right? However, Donald Trump stepped into a lot of these smaller races. For example, the redistricting people in Indiana, he stepped into those primary races and blew out, was it 6 of the 7 candidates that voted against redistricting Indiana? He stepped in these primaries in Kentucky and absolutely annihilated the Mitch McConnell dynasty and knocked out Thomas Massie, which we'll get to in a minute. So here's Eric Schmidt explaining exactly what's going on here. When people elected Donald Trump a second time after everything he went through, there was a mandate, there was an absolute agenda, and the people who stand up against it, they're going to get railroaded.
The war and the Epstein files.
Yeah, I think moving a Trump agenda forward, you got to remember, you zoom out here. Many people, not me, not you, wrote Trump off after he left office the last time. He brought back, the most historic comeback in modern political history. No one's ever seen a non-consecutive term like this. And he ran on a very specific agenda, right? It was taking on the establishment kind of interests, illegal immigration, legal immigration in some instances. And so when you're trying to move that agenda forward, it's very important Republican Party that's aligned with where our voters are at. And I think that's really what the issue here is. And we still have more work to do, but you can object to a thing here or there. I just don't know if you can be an obstructionist on everything.
The war and the Epstein files.
And that's what Massie became. He became an obstructionist on everything. And there's another one, Rand Paul, who isn't as much of an obstructionist, but a pretty hard vote to get. And Donald Trump just knocked out Massie. Now, if you want a good laugh, this is a little throwback to a couple days ago when Massie was on with Bill Hemmer on Fox News. Listen to the confidence here.
Most of the people voting for me support President Trump like I do. And so what the endorsements that I've gotten are from the pro-life groups, the pro-Second Amendment groups, because my opponent, he won't debate. He won't fill out the forms to say where he is on abortion, where he is on gun control. And so I've also got the local elected leaders and the state reps endorsing me. I've got U.S. reps from Congress coming to my district and campaigning with me.
Except for anybody from Kentucky.
I'm the conservative, and I'm running against an AI candidate without the I. He's created AI ads. He does his social media posts with AI, and he hasn't been to a single debate. He skipped all 8 of them. He's terrified of debating, and people don't know who he is. There's no enthusiasm for him. I did 3 events yesterday. Each of them, every one of them, had more attendees than the Secretary of War's event. That tells you where the polling's at. They're panicked because the president's done 11 posts about this race in the last 72 hours, and they sent the Secretary of War. Their polling shows the same thing as mine. We're probably going to pull this off. Most of the people.
Well, now, if you're not projecting confidence, you probably shouldn't be running. But
sure.
But
let's break this down. So Ed Galarian, I can't even say his name, didn't debate, didn't run on any of his policies.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is the other thing I was going to say was like, Massie, you just lost to nobody.
Yes. He didn't debate.
How bad is that?
He didn't run on any of his policies. He didn't go out and do a lot of local stuff, did a lot of air game stuff. Okay. Yeah. Trump's endorsement. Massie sent out a text a day ago saying, I'm the Trump endorsed candidate, showing a 2022 endorsement. Desperate. Okay. So by his own admission here, according to him, he should have won.
Yeah.
Because this other candidate's hiding. And it was alleged that he ran a Biden campaign, right? Yeah. Hiding in his basement, didn't come out and do anything.
Yep.
So this was a referendum on Thomas Massie versus Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, guess what happened, Ron? It was a resounding, and I would call this a blowout for Ed Galarian.
Warren Davidson, a Republican from Ohio, he came in as well, all to campaign on behalf of Thomas Massie. And that was their
Trump
judgment.
threatened to pull his endorsement, right?
Yeah, right. And we'll see what happens in Colorado when her race comes up. But right now, Laura, this is a resounding victory for the president and the power he has now in the Republican Party at just about every level. Remember in Indiana, the state senators who nobody even thought about, right? When he endorsed almost 6 out of 7, 6 of them won, Laura.
Yeah, well, Raffensperger in Georgia looks like that. You know, he did terribly there. So
we'll
another
check in on
Trump
that
foe.
momentarily.
Yeah, that's good. That's coming up, but that's another one. We'll watch that result, but that is not going to be positive. My prediction is in the end for Raffensperger. Look, Donald.
So there's like 8 counties in that district, or there's more than that. It was like 20 counties in his district there. And Thomas Massie only won 2 of them, one of them being his home district. The rest of them went the other direction. And that's a 10-point blowout. 10-point blowout there. That's, I mean, Massie's going to eat his words. There were some pollsters like Rich Barris. We played a clip from him the other day saying, you know, a lot of people, they don't like the commercials. They don't like the negative attacking of Massie, and he's a local. And Ed Barris from the People's Pundit, who I like generally, but I'm starting to kind of look at some of his polling the last year, and I'm like, it starts to feel like your personal opinions are making it into the polling. In fact, he pumped up Massie, but bet on Ed Galeran and admitted it. This could be some type of insider trading situation going on.
So yeah, guys, I don't know what to tell you. The other night, like I was saying, and I know Paul's listening, I accidentally bought Galeran 5 to 10. So I cashed out before when
he's betting on the results, and he's a pollster, which means he can influence the results.
And it was like, dude, it was like a 92% return already. So I was like, oh, I am out. And I left it, and it was an accident. I didn't mean to buy him. And I was like, well, it's a hedge bet, you know, if it's wrong, because I really did see this race going like this for either side. And by the way, so did both sides. Both sides at the very, and I think I can say it now. I think so. Like Massie's polling had the race very close. Massie up, definitely tightened, and it was like a hair. It was very close to ours. At the end, Galeran's polling, which like switched a month or so ago, they did put back to Galeran, and I think they had him up by 9. I want to say 9. So it's going to be.
And it sounds like Ed's polling ended up being accurate, whereas Richard Barris's polling didn't. But he bought Ed betting odds. Man, what that's kind of a scandal there. So here's Thomas Massie's concession speech, or at least the start of it. Talk about a sore loser.
I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Galeran in Tel Aviv. I did get to call. I have called and conceded the race. We've been honorable the whole time, and we're going to stay that way.
You know, that's really interesting.
All right.
So in this same speech, they go on and they start chanting 28, like they want him to run for president in 28.
No.
And he's like, I'm going to go have a medical margarita, you know. Anyways, you know, I listened to the Laura Loomer interview with Cynthia West, and I don't recommend anybody. This is over now. Massie's done. Right.
Yeah.
He's a lame duck. He's probably going to vote against
It's in the rear view.
Donald Trump wants.
Just forget it.
In fact, I think between now and the midterms, we run a higher risk of impeachment than after the midterms, just based on a lot of these incumbents are a little bit upset with Donald Trump. Remember, Cassidy got a flop out. You've got Raffensperger down in Georgia. Now, he was the election. He stayed as Secretary of State in the 2020 election. He decided he was going to run for governor. Dude, got like 13% of the vote, came in 3rd place, like total blowout there. Georgians completely rejected him. Obviously, you've got Thomas Massie here. I'm pretty sure this is his wife to the left here. When you go listen to that Cynthia West interview, it is disturbing. It is disturbing. It's disturbing to the level where you start to wonder if Thomas Massie is like Eric Swalwell gross. So it's pretty disturbing. And it kind of explains his... You find this so common, and I don't know if it's just when politicians flop out and we find out all the dirt on them that finally comes out, right? I don't know if it's every single politician 100%, or if it's just like that's the reason they flop out, is this stuff finally catches up with them. And that's what it feels like with Massie. Like the fact that he and Boebert and MTG all got on board with this Epstein thing, and Boebert has her issues literally on camera. Turns out Boebert and Massie were sleeping together, right? We find out MTG's, like, even before she was elected, we knew she's a swinger. And
this is like another really big chicken and egg thing.
I know. What comes first, the
which came
degeneracy
first?
or the anti what your constituents want? I don't know. What comes first? It's a big deal. Like, it's one of those things where you just have to scratch your head a little bit and go, why is it every time we have someone who ideologically should align with us, but then they don't vote with us, and then they take some grandstand issue that hurts Donald Trump or hurts whatever good agenda that's out there, and they take a principled stance, and then we turn around and find out they're completely unprincipled people.
Right.
It's like, it starts to kind of make you wonder here.
It undermines everything.
Another thing that happened here, we're going to listen to Laura Ingraham, because while they were discussing Thomas Massie on Fox News on the Ingraham angle, we got news that in the Senate runoff, this is to replace Mitch McConnell's seat. We got breaking news on that one as well. The Trump endorsed candidate won as well.
We're just learning that Andy Barr has won the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate in Kentucky. That is official.
Okay, I want to point at this for you. So Cameron over here, the African-American man from Kentucky, he's the former Attorney General of Kentucky.
Okay.
And he has long been considered the heir apparent to Mitch McConnell.
Okay.
So this is a big deal here. He was absorbing the Mitch McConnell political machinery.
It was a blowout against the challenger, Mr. Cameron. So, the question here, I think, Andy, for Mark, of course, for a lot.
Okay, so I want to read this to you guys, because this is a great breakdown. This comes from Thomas A. Whitaker. Do you understand what quietly happened in Kentucky last night? A state that so many of us that we forget about, right? Mitch McConnell spent 41 years building the most powerful Republican machine in the Senate. He blocked nominees, he killed legislation, he outlasted 6 presidents, and bent the entire GOP caucus to his will for decades. Remember, his wife, a Taiwanese woman. Her father is a Chinese Communist Party CCP container ship owner and does a lot of shipping and stuff, which we're going to show you a little bit later in the show. The shipping container owners colluded against the Americans during COVID, and they got indicted this week. Okay. So her dad is strong ties to the CPC. Peter Schweizer focused on Mitch McConnell in one of his books. I can't remember what it was, something about corruption, featuring a handful of politicians that have been around forever and how corrupt they are. Trump walked in. Okay. He bent the entire GOP caucus to his will for 4 decades. The moment he stepped back, Trump walked in on May 1st, endorsed Andy Barr, offered the only real rival to Andy Barr an ambassadorship, and the rival dropped out the same week. Cameron, the man who was supposed to carry McConnell's network forward, entered with a polling lead, raised money, had the name recognition. He'd already been the AG of Kentucky, had the Christian conservative base. Barr had none of that early.
Sounds like it should have been a lock.
Yep. Until Trump made one phone call and one diplomatic offer. Cameron finished at 30% and Barr won with 60%.
Wow.
The seat McConnell held since 1984, almost my whole life, flipped to a Trump loyalist in a single primary night. The first open Kentucky Senate seat in 42 years, decided by an endorsement and an ambassadorship. Every single establishment figure watching this tonight told their donors the McConnell network is durable. Every single one assumed the old machine had enough infrastructure to survive his retirement. It didn't survive a single election cycle. Not a scandal, not a Democrat, not a generational shift. One endorsement, one ambassadorship offer, and 41 years of political infrastructure collapsed in an evening. The quiet part nobody is saying out loud. Trump just didn't win a primary tonight. He erased the last internal friction point inside the Senate Republican caucus without a single floor vote. It's only getting quieter from here. I'll keep you updated. Turn on your notifications. Woo! Shout out to him. That is a great analysis there. Post midterms, when we cycle some of these people out, it could be glorious, right? With all the redistricting and everything that's going on, it could be really glorious.
This is a consolidation of power.
Yeah. Now, Lauren Boebert, who's now thrown her lot in with Thomas Massie and MTG, the Republican squad, She went and campaigned for Thomas Massie. Now, Thomas Massie, I had more people at my rally than Pete Hegseth from the Secretary of War.
Sure.
Then why'd you have to pump in the laughing track and the clap track, right? It's like, doesn't make any sense. Well, this is Lauren Boebert after that event or before, I don't know. She sat down for an interview. She talks about her undying support for Donald Trump and how she just has to be a loyal friend to Massie.
Of course. You're here supporting Massie, who Trump has not endorsed. So
Thomas Massie supports President Trump. So
Thomas Massie does.
Does he? Big beautiful bill, open borders, DEI, all votes against Donald Trump. These are critical parts of the MAGA movement. But Massie supports Donald Trump.
But there's an obvious rift.
Sure,
right? Because he endorsed his opponent.
I get it.
So then, are you I'm just wondering.
I don't understand how you can say Massie supports Donald Trump when Massie, out of his own mouth on major news networks, said Donald Trump is protecting pedophiles.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to square that.
Why do you feel it's so important to do? Because I think you're sticking your neck out potentially for another primary the next time around to punish you. So I'm wondering, what drives you to take this stand?
This interviewer here has better political instincts than Lauren Boebert. You're putting your neck out for Massie, someone who Donald Trump has specifically targeted, and you run the risk of being targeted next.
Mm-hmm.
He has better political instincts than Lauren Boebert.
Always in some sort of unforeseen battle. But I absolutely stand with President Trump. But I stand with Thomas Massie as well. Thomas Massie is a dear friend of mine, and I believe in what he does, what he stands for. And, he and I have voted different many times, and that doesn't mean he's not my friend. He's not stopping legislation that's being passed. I mean, things he's voted against have still been signed into law.
Yeah.
And I have prevented things from going to the floor and being passed. But then when that happens, we go into a room and we make the bill better. And then we bring it to the floor. And it still may not be perfect, but I can stand a yes vote more than I could have. And so I get it. But you can like President Trump and Thomas Massie. This isn't a cult. This isn't a marriage. This is a coalition. And you need ideas and you need folks. I mean, if President Trump is going to endorse Lindsey Graham, I would have a harder time with that than Thomas Massie. But no,
the guy that was walking around Disneyland with a bubble.
Oh my, why? Why do we do this to ourselves?
I don't understand.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lauren.
5 toes in the middle when we're doing business.
Why do we do this to ourselves? That is exactly it. When you know that you're in a glass house, don't throw stones. Okay. You know what Lindsey Graham is really good at? Knowing which way the political wind is blowing. Right. Now, I don't like Lindsey Graham. I think he's a total weirdo.
He's a survivor.
But good gravy, man. He's got his own political machine, but he knows exactly which way the wind is blowing. Okay? He knows exactly. He ain't going to vote against Donald Trump on nothing. He might be a little over the top when it comes to support of Israel.
Might be a little gay.
Yeah, he might be a little gay, right? Hey, Lindsey, if you just stop being gay, you wouldn't have any blackmail. Well, sounds to me like Donald Trump's got the blackmail file because Lindsey Graham's in lockstep with Donald Trump.
Whoever that dude is that says that, we got to find out who that guy is because I love that guy's voice.
Yeah, Patrick Hawley is his name. All right, so even Harry Enton at CNN, he gets it. He knows what's up here.
Isn't surprised at all because the bottom line is this. Donald Trump is the general of the Republican Party, and the Republican primary voters are his soldiers. And if you look at Thomas Massie, you can see it very clearly. You look in 2020, 2022, 2024, he was getting 75%, upwards of 81% of the primary vote in 2020. And today, he gets less than 50% of the vote. That's the story.
That is a total and utter collapse.
Mm-hmm.
What Thomas Massie has done.
Or it's an exposure of the bullcrap numbers these guys post.
What Thomas Massie has done when Trump was out of office, endorsing Ron DeSantis, pursuing a Department of Agriculture gig, bad-mouthing Trump, saying we need to hold Trump accountable, right? And then when Trump got back in office, being an absolute obstructionist. Now, his method of obstruction was music to our ears, our libertarian leanings, right? Like, oh, I don't want to support government spending. But the big, beautiful bill has tax cuts.
Mm-hmm.
The big, beautiful bill increases our military, which is the one thing we want to have spent on. It's like one of the only things we want to support the government in doing. The big, beautiful bill has all these provisions that are good for average Americans. Is it good for corporate America too? Yeah, because we're not communist. It's good for all, right? But Thomas Massie totally missed the mark. Winning his election, 70, 80%, those are huge numbers. That's like, hey, I barely even have to campaign. And to turn around and have, by Thomas Massie's own admission, an airdrop candidate who's hiding in his basement, who won't debate or do anything, to lose to him tells you just how strong Donald Trump's endorsement is.
It's incredible because you look at it so consistent time after time after time. And then, wow, look at tonight. Donald Trump, thank you very much.
Yeah, boom.
Yeah, Ponyboy said it.
And Ponyboy said it, and that tells you how powerful the president's endorsement is. In 1 week, we've knocked out Mitch McConnell's heir apparent. We've knocked out Bill Cassidy, an incumbent senator. The first time in over 100 years an incumbent senator has lost a primary. Okay, we knocked out, in the last month, we knocked out state senators in Indiana who voted against redistricting. Last night, Donald Trump had 21. I think 21 of his 21 endorsed primary candidates all won their primaries. Big deal. We also saw a huge shift down in the Supreme Court in Georgia, right? Down in Georgia, the Republicans picked up 2 Supreme Court seats.
The results are in for the race for 2 seats on Georgia's Supreme Court. Let's take a look at the race between incumbent Justice Charlie Bethel and trial lawyer Miracle Rankin. It's been called for Bethel, who claimed 51% of the votes. And former Democratic State Senator Jen Jordan challenged presiding Justice Sarah Warren for another seat. Warren will keep the seat after claiming 59% of the votes. The results are in.
So we kept 1 seat and earned 1 seat, but are maintaining a Republican majority on the Georgia bench, which is important. Because Georgia is one of these messed up states, right? It's led by a governor that clearly has communist ties. There's lots of connections there. He's clearly a governor who told the Georgia Bureau of Investigations and the Georgia State Patrol or whatever not to look into voter fraud because it's coming down from the top, right? And so that's a big deal. And things are tightening up on the election front. This is good news for those of us, right, like here in Washington State, where we feel like we're in a captured state. The Democrat Party
we're basically in East Berlin.
Yeah, the Democrat Party is, I know we're in East Berlin. When do you get out, before or after they built the wall?
Yeah.
So the Democrat Party is imploding in on its own weight. The identity politics inevitably breaks up. Inevitably, the Muslim contingency and the LGBT contingency are going to butt heads. There's going to be a problem there. You're eventually going to run into problems with the union when the corporations that they supply workers for go out of business. Then the union is sitting there like, what do we do now? Right? Hey, you guys ran the companies that we supported out of town. And guess what? We go with them. There goes your voters, right? The obvious issues with law and order on the streets specifically. I mean, communists will definitely go after anybody in the background. The court docket is always going to be full. But when we're talking about needles on the streets, homelessness, petty theft, robbery, home invasions, property crimes, these all get elevated to the point of insanity. And so we start looking around, well, where are the problems? Well, clearly one of the big problems here is the elections. And what is different now than it has been in the past 10 years ago? There's a lot of attention on the elections, specifically how the votes are counted, how the ballots are sent out, if they are or are not harvested, who's registering to vote, who's on the voter rolls. Every aspect of the election is under a microscope. This was not the case 10 years ago.
No, everybody was just comfortable sitting around watching things happen.
To the extent that January 6th ends up being a good thing in America, it'll be because it brought a huge heightened sense on why January 6th happened, which was the rigged and stolen 2020 election.
Right. And now that it's under a microscope, it just makes it that much harder to make the cheat happen.
Yes. And Donald Trump has brought in a lot of lawyers, both into the RNC and into the DOJ, who are looking into this aggressively. Harmie Dillon was down in California, and she argued in the courts yesterday that they need to open up the voter rolls and look, and they will prevail, as they have everywhere else.
Hi, I'm here outside the very beautiful Pasadena courthouse where the Ninth Circuit just held oral argument on 2 important cases under the Civil Rights Act of 1960 regarding both Oregon and California's refusal of the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division request to get the voter rolls from each of these two states so that we can help these states comply with the National Voter Registration Act and the Help America Vote Act. I want to introduce the incredible team who argued these cases today. Andrew Braniff argued the Oregon appeal is the ability of the United States to exercise its right under the Civil Rights Act to obtain voter records and make sure that states are not violating the rights of citizens, refusing to keep accurate voter rolls under our federal voting statutes, and are just treating people fairly so that we can all believe in the outcome of our elections. So stay tuned for more on the appeals in this particular two cases, as well as some others happening around the country. Thanks.
That is excellent news.
Miss Dillon, please come to Washington.
They've got a lawsuit going, and it'll be our turn next. And it'll be enlightening, just like in Oregon, where they were forced to remove 800,000 voters from the voter rolls.
I don't know how enlightening it'll be, but it will be refreshing.
It'll be enlightening because we'll know.
Yeah.
Right? Oregon, this next election cycle is going to be a problem for the Democrats. It's going to be a huge problem. And this is the thing. You might live in a blue state like we are led to believe we do, but it may very well be ruby red. 800,000 voters in a state that does mail-in voting. You can flip any election you want.
Yeah.
Even if you took the machines out, because of that universe of ballots, those ballots that are floating around there, they could all get returned. Yeah. And the reality is human signature verification is a problem, right? I mean, once you look at one ballot, unless the next ballot has the same signature, the next one's just going to flow through. So that huge universe of ballots being reduced by 800,000 voters, right? Which means they're not going to get mailed a ballot this next election cycle. What's going to happen in Oregon?
I know.
We could see a Republican governor. We could see the House flip. We could see all kinds of amazing things that we didn't think was possible. We would think Portland's weird. It's going to stay weird. They want it that way. Do they?
Right. That could be the hugest lie ever.
Yes. Yes. Now, Maryland is another one of these deep blue states that nobody believes will ever change. And they have another little problem too. And again, 10 years ago, this stuff would happen and it wouldn't even make the news because, of course, the government was going to report on themselves and journalists weren't looking. But now there's a lot of conservatives that are looking at this stuff. So when states make these not so minor mistakes, they become national news and they become something that the local government, the state, and the election boards can't ignore. For example, in Maryland, they sent out a faulty 500,000 ballots and then sent 500,000 more, totaling 1 million votable ballots just floating out in the ether.
Tell us, how does a Maryland State Board of Elections mistakenly issue mail-in ballots, 500,000 of them?
So we're still trying to figure that out. Essentially, the Maryland State Board of Elections is claiming that their vendor sent 500,000 ballots to some incorrect voters. We have a closed primary in Maryland, so some Democrats got Republican ballots. By the way, Democrat ballots are blue, Republican ballots are red. They can't figure out how it happened. They don't know who got the incorrect ballots. And so on May 14th, they realized there was a problem. And on that same day, they decided unilaterally at the staff level to reissue 500,000 more ballots to those same voters. Wow. And remember, here in Maryland, we have no protections on our ballots. There's no voter ID. There is no signature verification. What? And we're currently in another lawsuit because we believe we have 1 million extra names on our voter rolls. So there are up to 1 million ballots floating around the state of Maryland.
My goodness. All right. Amazing. So because of you and because of our mutual friend, Phil, I have known of Maryland's election problems for a very, very long time. If there was one silver bullet that would take care of things, I know you just mentioned the voter rolls being very, very dirty, obviously not having to prove who you are on a paper ballot. That's another problem. But what would clean up the most amount of votes in that state?
Okay, well, we have the problem of short term in the election. So obviously, election integrity activist dream scenario is that all of these mail-in ballots be canceled because there is absolutely no confidence in the security of them. And as you can imagine, if you have 1 million extra ballots floating, even just 500,000, you can imagine that can affect the outcome of every single race in the state. So that is a huge concern for us. We have people certainly pushing for early voting only in election day, and that's it. It is difficult to imagine that the Maryland State Board of Elections would ever go along with such a scenario. Long term, what would really
kind of like in LA, the mayor's office doesn't want to get rid of homelessness.
solve all of Maryland's problems. We're one of 14 states with no voter ID. Those are obviously the same states that we seem to have the most fraud complaints out of. Voter ID for federal races would solve so many of our problems. In Maryland, with not only our lax ballot procedures, but our 1 million extra names on the rolls, we have people who moved out of state 25 years ago still receiving ballots in our state. We have reports that people are getting driver's licenses in their names. We had the Ian Roberts scenario with, illegal aliens on our voter rolls. And then we have tons of deceased people, and there's no agreement with the Social Security Administration, with the Motor Vehicle Administration, which is actually run well in this state, to handle any of this data and keep our rolls clean. So there is so much work that needs to be done that is just basic good governance. This should not be a partisan issue. This should just be a matter of having faith in the integrity and outcome of our elections. And
that's really it. It's a bipartisan, nonpartisan issue. Like the Save America Act, it's supported by 75% of Democrats, 85+% of Republicans. Who knows who the 15% of Republicans are? It must be Massie's nasties, right? This is a big deal. 10 years ago, this would have never even made the news. This would have happened. 1 million extra voters on the rolls, 1 million extra ballots. They're going to send everybody ballots again. You got 2 million extra voters and ballots floating around out there.
Right.
Total
and the assumption by the public was, well, they'll sort it out.
Well, the assumption by the public is Maryland's blue.
Right.
That's it. That's of course. I mean,
well, yeah, no. Maryland's blue, and whatever this little problem was 10 years ago, everybody would just assume that, oh, they'll sort it out.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The state might be blue. Here in Washington, you could go knock on your neighbor's door. Good chance they're going to identify as a Democrat. Yep. So then you start talking about things like, illegal immigrants driving big rigs on the road. Oh, I support big government. They should crack down on that.
Right.
Okay. You start talking about things like homeless encampments, and it's like, wow, they should control the corporations so that people can have jobs. Okay, so you're against homeless encampments, and we should do something about corporations being able to hire these people. Well, yeah. Well, what if we lowered taxes on the corporations so they could hire the homeless people? Well, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, the state government, the federal government does that, right? The big government, Big Brother's going to take care of that. Yeah, they could. Like, you can get a Democrat to support you on anything because we all have the same pain points. Our solutions might be different, but once you identify that we all agree on all the problems that have to be fixed, things like fixing the elections, not a problem. Not a problem. So the fact that there's a tension on this, if Maryland has some squampus election coming up, there's going to be lawsuits. There's going to be attention on it. And there's going to be lack of faith that that government has a mandate to rule the way they're going to rule. It's going to be a cog in the gears of the political machinery. This is super important. It's going to take us a decade, 20 years to sort this stuff out fully if we stay on it. But we're on it. That's the message here. Ron, what do we have here?
Well, let's check it out.
Did we get any Wise Israel money? Nope. We're doing Trevana Health.
Trinova Health. Access Med, powered by Trinova Health, is a revolutionary telehealth service that offers fast, free online evaluations and free home delivery of customized compounded medications, offering custom weight loss support, ivermectin therapy, hair restoration, cosmetic rejuvenation, custom ED treatments, and more. You can complete your visit in less than 10 minutes, and there's no subscriptions or recurring fees ever. We've made getting started easier than ever. Simply follow the link, choose the product or treatment you're interested in, and then complete a quick online evaluation. Within days, your custom meds will arrive to your door. Mention Rumble in your coupon code and get 10% off your first treatment. Pew! That was a quick one.
That's a good one. Okay. So yesterday we played a piece in Washington State where they let someone, a illegal immigrant who came across the border illegally, was given work papers by Joe Biden's administration, went to California, got his CDL, drove up into Washington. I'm sure he drove all across the country, faked his driver logs, pretending like he had a co-driver driving so he could do his 10 plus hours of driving a day. CDL drivers driving big rigs are limited to 10 hours of driving a day, by the way. So he faked the logs so he could drive longer. Didn't even hit the brakes, slammed into a car, killed a family, and then the court system let him out because, some technicality, this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
This has been going on. This is an older clip. This is from back when Kristi Noem was still the at DHS.
Okay.
And DHS is in charge of cracking down on this. It's kind of part of Homeland Security. It all ties in. And we had another situation very similar where someone killed a family. I believe it was in Pennsylvania. Driver's license was issued out of Illinois, right? Again, these Democrat states that start manipulating their data, like, oh, we need to give more truckers because we told our constituents we would do that, but they don't give truckers licenses to kids that are looking for a good
These blue states, they'll give you a CDL if you got a pulse.
Exactly. So here's the results of that. Again, this is a huge problem in America.
Another illegal immigrant truck driver accused in a deadly crash in Indiana. It killed 4 people.
Indiana.
The driver reportedly entered the United States under President Biden using the CBP One app and released on parole. Senior correspondent Mike Philbin has this tragic story. Hi, Mike.
And sadly, Dana, it's another case of someone who entered the U.S. under Biden administration policies, went to a sanctuary state, got a license to get behind a big rig, and now someone is hurt or killed. It happened in Indiana on Tuesday. One truck on State Road 67 slowed down. The truck behind him did not, instead swerved into oncoming traffic. The truck hit a van transporting 4 men from Indiana's Amish community. The 4 men were killed. The driver of that van is now in critical condition. Indiana State Police report the driver of the semi-truck is 30-year-old Bezkan Beshikiv from Kazakhstan. He entered the U.S. using the Biden administration CBP One cell phone app, and that was in December of 23. Beshikiv was issued a commercial driver's license by the state of Pennsylvania. Now, the issue of undocumented people behind the wheel of big rigs is painful for Marcus Coleman. In June of 2024, his 5-year-old daughter was critically injured by a driver from India who entered the U.S. illegally and got a commercial driver's license when he was still a teenager. Dahlia will spend the rest of her life in need of medical care.
Still
document the full recovery. She's going to be on therapies for the rest of her life. She's going to be on medication the rest of her life. And we've pretty much come to the terms that she's not going to be self-sufficient. She's going to basically have to have a guardian and pretty much a chaperone and caretaker with her pretty much everywhere she goes.
Now,
So here's what I don't like about this. Okay. What I don't like about this is you now have created state dependency because you've disabled this young lady. She's going to have her whole life. She's going to need a guardian, which puts a burden on the family, which then is going to turn around and ask the state for assistance. And the state owes it to them because the state enabled the situation that led to this absolute disaster. So it's like a snake eating its own tail. We can't win here. Like, I can't turn around and tell this father and this family, oh, hey, state aid for your kid, the social safety net that we've been pushing forever, it's not going to come through. We're spending too much money. Right. Or how about this? How about now that we've created a situation where an illegal alien came across the border, got a CDL license while a teenager, I didn't know at 17 or 16, over the road trucking was an option for me. I was unaware. My high school guidance counselor didn't mention that to me. It was military or college. You know what I mean? I didn't realize that I could get a CDL as a teenager and go see the country, see the world, young man, from the cab of a truck. Okay. Didn't know that. This is horrible, horrible stuff. And it creates a situation where we now, as a state, have a burden to care for that young lady, and rightfully so. Now, you know what would make it even worse is what if that young lady went to one of these, medical centers that was owned by some Armenian guy that was taking all the money that was for her and using it to buy Lamborghinis and houses overseas. It's bad, isn't it? It's bad. And where do we start fixing it? At the elections. God's Army Brat 9444 in the YouTube chat says mail-in ballots are a huge part of the issue. Machines are manipulated too. And what do all of the states Harris won have in common? No voter ID, mail-in ballots. Imagine if this country is 70% MAGA. It very well could be the case. It very well could be the case. At least 50% plus one. When you see that in the last election, that Harris only won the states with no voter controls at all, and even some of the ones with no voter controls, like Michigan, one of the worst states when it comes to ballots, Michigan is ruby red. Okay,
I know. It makes you wonder.
The fact that their ballot rules got worse from 2020 to 2024, and Trump still won out a squeaker there. Michigan is ruby red. All those factory workers that were blue dog Democrats, they're like, bring the jobs back, baby. NAFTA killed us. Speaking of Michigan state senator who's running in opposition to Gretchen Whitmer has referred to the DOJ a referral to investigate Whitmer over a $20 million fraud scheme. So it turns out Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel announced 16 felony charges against Faye Badun of Farmington Hills earlier this month. Badun is accused of misusing $20 million grant meant to start a business accelerator. It's kind of like the money that goes to end homelessness, and homelessness doesn't end. Money goes to a fund to help get businesses accelerated and get going, and doesn't quite make it there, does it? Nesbitt, who's running for Republican nomination for governor, described Badun as a political donor and close ally of the governor, who has allegedly has a close friendship with Nessel. Michigan deserves a governor who works for everyone in the state, not favored cronies who fund their lifestyle and campaigns. Nesbitt said in a statement, "Let me be clear, if the governor is found complicit in this scheme to rob taxpayers, it must be held accountable under law. We're going to follow the money, uncover the truth, and deliver justice for the taxpayers of this state." That's great news. Let's see. Murray's-O, absolutely. I feel it. Murray's-O, she's 28, but 5. What do you mean? Oh, yes. So my mother, I have a cousin-aunt. Long story, but she's an aunt that was adopted by my grandmother, so making her my cousin. So she's my cousin-aunt. Okay. And she has she's a handicap. Big time. Okay. Right. So she's 28 years old, but she has the mind of a 4-year-old. And it is a lifelong care scenario, right? Lifelong care scenario. And, we can all have our opinions, but a lot of that had to do with her parents' health. When she was born, they were drug addicts, and that caused fetal issues. And where did the drugs come from? Across the border, right? I mean, you just kind of can do the math here. Not saying every drug ever came across the border, but it starts to be one of those things like, what is the government good for if it can't protect us? And that's one of the things that would protect us from, as they say, from our vices. And this is the problem with a extreme libertarianism point of view. Things like drugs should be legal. They don't hurt anybody. These are adults. They can make their decisions. No. Their decisions can have generational impacts. So when it comes to things that are obvious, like no drugs, that is we want to stop the flow of drugs into the country because it leads to these situations. People don't make choices in a vacuum like that, right? So this idea that, well, if, people can make their own decisions, no, because we then have to pay the consequences because you are now incapable of paying the consequences of your choices. So when it comes to stuff like drugs, remember our founding fathers said the government is to protect us from our vices. Some of your choices might not be good ones, and there are some choices that we should try to foreclose on before you have the opportunity to make them, like using heroin. Okay. Now, another thing that happened, I mentioned this earlier with regards to Mitch McConnell's family, and I do not have any knowledge that there's a connection between this shipping company and Mitch McConnell's in-laws shipping company. But it doesn't matter. These shipping companies, specifically the companies that control the containers, they control 90% of the world's commodity flow around the world, and they're all in China. There was a huge indictment on shipping container executives for colluding through their monopolistic ability to hurt the Americans.
Today, the Department of Justice is unsealing an indictment charging 7 Chinese executives and 4 of the largest shipping container manufacturers with conspiring to fix prices in violation of antitrust laws. Collectively, the Chinese conspirators manufacture about 95% of the world's standard dry shipping containers. These charges arise from a conspiracy to restrict the output and fix prices of shipping containers at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Shipping containers are key to transporting billions of dollars of goods to Americans every year. Around the start of the global pandemic, these manufacturers exploited the crisis and their market power to squeeze the supply chain for profit. Through coordinated agreements, including the use of video cameras to monitor production lines and prices, this Chinese cartel dramatically raised the prices of shipping containers between 2019 and 2021. These companies were rewarded handsomely. Their profits increased nearly 100-fold, receiving over 11 billion won at the expense of American businesses seeking to transport goods from China. The Justice Department is committed to prosecuting criminals who harm Americans domestically and abroad. We are holding these Chinese bad actors accountable for exploiting the pandemic to fill their own coffers, and this Justice Department will continue to vigorously enforce criminal antitrust violations.
You know, it's interesting when you're Donald Trump and you're facing the 2 weeks to stop the curve shutdown that extended to a month and went on, and he did everything in his power to create, what do you call it, the K-shaped recovery. He got your bottom line, boop, boop, and try to bounce back. And for the most part, he did. By the time Joe Biden got back into office, Biden was like, the economy's doing great. Look what I did. It's like, dude, you didn't do jack nothing. But a lot of our raised prices really had nothing to do with supply chains being shut down. It had to do with a lot of different moments like this, where they increased the price of the shipping containers, which everything gets packed into, which then increased their profit margin. But what did it? Those costs get passed on to who? You, the consumer.
Yep.
It wasn't tariffs, not in 2020, right? It wasn't tariffs that did that.
Nope.
It was fat cat corporations. So you know what I think the solution is, Ron? Centralized control.
Oh, yeah. Sheldon.
It's actually the opposite, right? That is centralized control. As four corporations that control 95% of the market, they colluded together as if they were one corporation, centralization, and did market pricing, market fixing. And we paid the price for it. So good on the DOJ for coming back around 6 years later and hitting these guys. Now, I don't know if these Chinese business executives are located in San Francisco or LA or Beijing. I have no idea, but they're indicted, and that's a problem for them. Okay, another thing too, speaking of local fraud and problems, here we have the Durham, North Carolina Committee on the Affairs of Black People. She's the chair of the Committee on the Affairs of Black People. I believe she's a member of the House, has just been indicted for embezzling $74,000 from that fund.
The woman is facing charges after a year-long investigation into potential fraud. Cassandra Stokes, the former Political Action Committee chair of the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, was indicted for embezzlement and obtaining property by false pretense.
I said she was a representative. She was a PAC member.
Okay. The allegations concerning the handling and use of almost $75,000 in PAC funds and related finances during the 2023 and 2024 years. WRAL first reported on the investigation last May. The SBI says the investigation is ongoing.
So PAC money being embezzled.
Whoops.
No, that's no surprise. How about this one? How about Illinois Park District Director? So this is the Parks Department. So, in Karen Bass's office, you have a bunch of people in her office that don't want to get rid of homelessness. I met so much resistance. This is the Parks Department. Turns out this Parks Department head used county money to pay for a helicopter at her daughter's birthday party.
What?
She put it on the county credit card.
City leaders insisting that the park director crossed the line for a photo op for her daughter. A photo shoot, at least the deposit we now know was charged with a credit card that taxpayers pay for. Less than a week after this helicopter landed at Lamarcum Park, catching many by surprise, this prom stunt for the park director's daughter is now political. Here's what Quintina Brown told officers.
I got it okay through the park, but I didn't just, what's going on with the city.
Yet city leaders never authorized the landing. City leaders
paid for a helicopter.
What in the heck is going on over there?
She paid for a helicopter, had it land at a public park for her daughter's prom thing, charged it to the county, and she's like, I don't know, what's the problem here?
These are like kids that used to go wilding.
Wild.
And all of a sudden they got the city credit card.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's insanity. It all starts with the elections, right? It all starts with the elections. As you climb up the ladder, like in the Gretchen Whitmer case, it's like, who's accountable to who here? You know, it's like, but thank goodness the DOJ is put a huge initiative. I can't find the clip. I had it in my thing and I accidentally X'd out of it and it's not worth getting, but DOJ did another press conference yesterday and they basically said, if you're misusing taxpayer dollars, we're coming for you. It was who JD Vance just put as the special head of his fraud investigations. It's a pretty big deal. Donald Trump this morning was asked on the tarmac about going after bad actors in the DOJ, because that's a concern too, isn't it, Ron?
Yeah.
Right?
Only over the weekend, Mr. President, you suggested that there's still people in your DOJ and FBI that are waiting you out. They're waiting until your administration is over to get back to work. Do you think those people are still in the DOJ and FBI?
I hope not. Well, we're going to seek them out. We'll seek them out. We'll get rid of them. Okay? Because you have in every agency, you have scum. And certainly they did in the FBI and DOJ. But Todd Blanche is doing a fantastic job. Cash is doing a very good job. So we will prevail. I've been standing here a long time with you, many years, right? And they've been saying, I think it's it. I think he's trouble. Here I am, you know. It's a very constant situation. But I think you're going to find that we have great people in the FBI and we have great people in DOJ. Todd Blanche has really been doing a great job and a lot of things to come. We have a lot of things that are coming right now. It's going to be great.
Well, I'm excited for the lot of things to come. Todd Blanche was in the Senate yesterday doing a hearing, and there was this nice little hissy fit here. This is, I think it's Senator Merkley. Yeah, Senator Merkley has a hissy fit on Todd Blanche because let's just listen to the clip. Okay, he accuses Todd Blanche of being Trump's personal lawyer and the disgusting behavior of going after a quote unquote enemies list. And Todd Blanche just totally flips the script on him.
The Department of Justice and the FBI have evidence that a crime's been committed. And that doesn't, I mean, you're talking about everything.
You commit to pursue regardless of political affiliation?
Excuse me, Senator?
Do you commit to pursuing investigations free of prejudice about party affiliation?
Of course, yes.
Well, you say of course, but this president has repeatedly spoken of an enemies list that he wants to go after. And I must say it's one of the symbols of the breakdown of a democratic republic when a president uses his Department of Justice, which you now head, to go after his perceived political enemies. I hope you won't be party to that. Thank you.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why what happened during the Biden administration was so disgusting.
That is completely inappropriate and wrong. There is no comparison to the absolute fair-minded pursuit of justice under the previous administration and this administration's pursuit of an enemies list. Thank you.
Senator Murray.
I believe the absolute fair-minded pursuit of justice under the Biden administration. Yeah. Yeah, what the Biden administration did was disgusting. Todd Blanche put this out yesterday, too. Now, things are changing at the DOJ. Clearly, things are changing. I'm not saying they're like going the full distance and it's all better. Absolutely not, okay? Jocelyn Ballantyne is still on the J6 pipe bomber case. So, to me, that's the canary in the coal mine. Until she gets taken off that case, you ain't cleaned nothing out yet, right? I mean, you can roll people out quietly out the back door, put them on the traffic ticket desk, but as long as you have Jocelyn Ballantyne on the J6 case, it ain't over. But one of the things we did find out was that Arctic Frost case was basically put on ice, right? It was dismissed without prejudice, files were tucked away, and they were intending to restart these investigations. Well, when that news broke, Todd Blanche took action. So as part of the settlement with Trump versus the Internal Revenue Service, this is from the Office of Attorney General, signed by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. The settlement agreement in Trump versus Internal Revenue Service has created an anti-weaponization fund. The settlement agreement directed the Attorney General to issue an order establishing funding and any other relevant requirements for the fund. So we've covered that last couple of days. By the way, those of you that have been sending me those links, I appreciate it. Even my dad called me just to let me know about this fund. I'm like, I'm glad you guys are all cheering for me in the background, right? I really appreciate that. I've got to figure out what attorney I'm going to use because there's been some drama with the attorneys, and I don't know. Mike Caputo just sent a letter to the acting attorney general saying, I want $2.7 million. I'm like, he never went to jail. Not saying it wasn't crazy. Lawfare can be oppressive. Okay. But all the J6ers we experienced, not only the lawfare, the IRS audits, the debanking, the no-fly list, the attacks on our kids and wives, and the social media and the internet stuff, on top of, I served 14 months in prison. Ron, what do you think the value of a day in prison is for someone that was targeted by the government?
I'll just throw a number out there. How about 50 grand?
I like that number, Ron. If it's 50 grand, though, this fund is a little short.
Yeah.
That's all of us that have potential claims on this weaponization fund feel like that's a little light.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when you open the door. And I'm not saying that these people don't deserve it as well. The crypto bros, the Face Act people, anybody tied up in Arctic frocks, Russiagate, obviously all the J6ers. It starts to be like, I wonder if they know how big the pool of people that were targeted by the Biden DOJ were.
Right. You get starting to slice this pie up into little teeny slivers.
If you were censored because of COVID, you could make a claim on this fund.
Yeah.
Right. And it's up to a 5-person panel to decide how much or if you qualify or whatever.
Right.
But there's going to be some social media guy that had like 19 followers that got censored. That's going to be like, I was just starting to grow. Look, I was 100% growth every week until I got censored. So we'll see. All right. So then it continues on. Section C, the United States releases, waives, acquits, and forever discharges each of the plaintiffs from and is hereby forever barred and precluded from prosecuting or pursuing any and all claims, counterclaims, causes of action, appeals for or requests for any relief, including injunctive relief, monetary relief, damages, examinations, or similar or related reviews, appeals, debt relief, costs, attorney's fees, expenses, or other interests, whether presently known or unknown as of the effective date of the settlement agreement, have or could have been asserted by the defendants against any of the plaintiffs or related or affiliated individuals, including without limitation, family and others filing jointly, or parties, including trusts, parent or sister or related companies, affiliates and subsidiaries, by reason of, with respect to, in connection with, or which arise out of 1, matters that were raised or could have been raised in the case of the pending agency claims, lawfare and or weaponization, any matters currently pending that could be pending, including tax returns filed before the effective date, before the defendants or other agencies and departments.
Dang, can't you just say all future crimes?
I think it's basically we're done. Everything that you guys tried to come after before and everything that they were being sued on, it's all done, right? Both parties waive everything and it's discharged, dismissed, it's over, which is good because it probably stops the reinvigorating of some of these old cases in the future. Donald Trump's actually going to have to go shoot someone on Main Street in order for something to happen. That's pretty good. Now, we've talked about some of the political shenanigans, the campaign fraud, the $20 million to Gretchen Whitmer, even a Parks Department director paying for a helicopter for her daughter's prom shoot. This stuff is rampant. It's rampant. Sean Duffy was in the Senate yesterday, and he's being grilled by Kristen Gillibrand. And he brings up an interesting point. Now, apparently, Sean Duffy went on some vacation, which I believe is one of these vacation working trips, right? And the trip was ultimately paid for by a conglomerate of companies that have interests in the transportation department. I don't particularly find what Sean Duffy did disturbing. Like, you're going on a working trip as the Department of Treasury or Transportation, and the trip is kind of an a la carte trip. It doesn't bother me too much. It's not like he took cash or donations or anything like that. But he turns the table on Kristen Gillibrand because it turns out she oversees lawyers, because she sits on the Judiciary Committee, and she takes a lot of money from the Bar Association.
It is a wonderful thing, but your vacation was paid for by Boeing, Toyota, United Airlines, Enterprise, Shell, Royal Caribbean Group, all organizations and companies.
Do you want me to respond to you? Can I respond? Do you have jurisdiction over law firms? So you received $7 million in political contributions from the trial bar.
Honestly, this has nothing to do with members of Congress. This has to do with the fact that you went on a paid vacation that was paid by companies that you oversee.
$7 million
That's
from the trial bar. You have jurisdiction.
Different.
You have jurisdiction on the trial bar. $7 million. Want me to go down the list of what else you received? You have jurisdiction.
Listen,
you actually passed
Secretary Duffy. This hearing is about you and this administration.
No, it's about you. I didn't make any money.
This hearing, you are the witness. I am not the witness.
I don't have any. Well, maybe you should be.
Well,
So he goes on a trip where the plane gets paid for, the hotel gets comped, the food probably gets comped. It's a working trip. He didn't take any money. Now, you might look at that and go, shouldn't be that way at all. The DOT should pay for all. Maybe, okay, it's tax dollars, but I kind of like it when the private, market pays for stuff that taxpayers would otherwise be burdened with. But the difference is Gildebrand takes direct donations that go to her that then she can spend at her discretion.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of a difference there, isn't it? I actually am in favor of barring members of Congress and members of government at all from taking any donations outside of private individuals that are listed by their donation. So, and if you take corporate donations, they're capped at the same amount that individuals are. So that way, when a corporation makes a donation and I make a donation,
get the same power.
It's the same, has the same buying power, right? And then on top of that, barring them from any individual stock trading. And I actually think, the idea of a blind trust is good. That's fine. But I think that whoever runs those trusts should be overseen. There should be some kind of bipartisan committee that oversees those. But on top of that, I think their wages should be raised to disincentivize the need. You can't really support two households, one in your local district and one in DC, especially DC is one of the most expensive areas to live.
Yeah.
On $170,000 or $40,000 salary, whatever these guys have. So it incentivizes them.
The DC one all by itself.
Mike Johnson said this. He's, I support, members of Congress doing a little extra on the side to pay for their living expenses. I'm like, well, there's the problem, right? It would be a drop in the bucket for us to pay them $400,000 or $500,000 and then bar them from any other income opportunities. I think that would be appropriate. And I think you should foreclose on their pensions. I don't think you should serve 5 years and then get a lifelong pension. I think that should be done with, right? That's just my opinion. Okay. Another thing that happened, then this is a good news. Speaking of Department of Transportation, I have long said, this is from Donald Trump, posted on Truth Social, that the horrific tragedy that beset East Palestine in 2023. Do you remember what happened there? Train got derailed, had a bunch of chemicals. They decided just to go ahead and burn it, created a huge toxic spill over the entire Ohio watershed was put at risk with this, may still be at risk. Along with Sleepy Joe Biden's utterly incompetent response must never happen again. I quickly and strongly stood up for and visited the incredible patriots of East Palestine, an action that forced Biden and FEMA, who had said they would not be sending federal aid to East Palestine, to move on sending a team. This was a major catastrophe during Biden's presidency, which had many disasters, from letting the rest of the world empty out their prisons and mental asylums and flood our great country, to surrendering Afghanistan. I am therefore strongly urging Congress to include the Railway Safety Act, which I strongly endorse in 2023, in the surface transportation reauthorization bill. I'm asking all Republicans to vote yes when this bill comes up as an amendment in the Transportation Committee this week. We must not delay any further on this very important matter. Donald J. Trump. What do you think the odds are that Republicans are going to fall in line right now?
Hold on. I'm not even 100% sure what this is about. What, East Palestine? Where is that?
It's in Pennsylvania.
Aha. So,
but it's on the border of Pennsylvania. It's
okay.
It's a border town.
Because the East Palestine reference, I was confused for a second, especially since it mentioned Afghanistan. I thought, I was like, wait a minute.
No, East Palestine is a city in Pennsylvania. There's also like a Bethlehem right nearby. They've got the whole, they've got the whole Israel map mirrored over there in the Midwest. But yeah, pretty interesting there. I have a suspicion that Republicans are going to fall in line. Why would you oppose Trump on this particular issue? Mm-hmm. So that could be a good thing. Now, here we go. This is another huge post from Donald Trump. Again, excellent news, in my opinion, but it does create an issue between now and the midterms. Highly respected Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, an American First Patriot and someone who has always been extremely loyal to me and our amazing MAGA movement, is running for the United States Senate to represent a place I love and won big 3 times with 6.4 million votes in 2024, the most votes in the history of the state by far. Now, what's going on here? John Cornyn, the incumbent senator from Texas, is running against Ken Paxton. It was a 3-way race, neither before when they had their original primary, and neither Paxton nor Cornyn crossed the 50% threshold. So they've now moved to a runoff. And depending on the polling you look at, it's kind of been a neck and neck race. Now, obviously, incumbent senators in the last 100 years haven't lost. So the presumption was Cornyn was probably still going to take it, even if it was by a squeaker. However, after this week's Cassidy loss, that's called into question. Okay. An incumbent senator can lose if you don't have the president's endorsement. Now, both these guys have been working hard to get president's endorsement. And about a month and a half ago, he made it contingent on passing the Save America Act. And Ken Paxton even went so far as to say, I'll drop out if John Cornyn will pass the Save America Act.
Yep.
There's been no motion on that. They did take a show vote, and Lisa Murkowski was the only one who voted against it. Go figure. But nonetheless, they didn't break the filibuster. They haven't done what they could do to attach it to FISA or any other bill. And so the Save America Act is still floating out there in the wind unused. Meanwhile, Baltimore's printing millions of extra ballots. California's printing extra ballots. So from the federal level, as far as the legislature is concerned, they're doing very little. Most of that work is being done in the courts, as we've highlighted. So Trump goes on to say,
has Cornyn made a statement about the Save America Act?
Oh, yeah, he's made statements. I support it, but, not to break the filibuster. Okay, great. I know Ken well and have seen him tested at the highest and most difficult levels. Remember, Cornyn was run through a sham impeachment himself. Highest levels, and he is a winner. Ken is a strong supporter of terminating the filibuster and, very importantly, the Save America Act, something which polls at 87%, including Democrats, and yet can't seem to get approved. Perhaps Ken can help move these important elements of government forward because with the filibuster, as an example, the Democrats will terminate it on their first day in office, giving us 2 extra states, D.C. and Puerto Rico, which presumably would go blue. D.C. for sure would. Puerto Rico? Question that one. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard has a hold of their voting machines. They got shenanigans going on down there too. And a greatly enlarged Supreme Court of the United States, probably going with their dream number of 21 justices from the 9 that we currently have. And these new justices will be radical left lunatics. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and I want to keep it that way. Ken Paxton will help me do that, making America bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Ken is a true MAGA warrior who has always delivered for Texas and will continue to do so in the United States Senate. He will tirelessly fight to continue the great growth of our economy, cut taxes and regulations. I just delivered the largest tax and regulations cut in American history, and advance made in the USA, unleash American energy dominance, champion Texas oil and gas, advocate for our amazing farmers and ranchers, promote school choice, keep the border secure, stop migrant crime, support our incredible military veterans, safeguard our elections, and protect our always under siege Second Amendment. Ponyboy and Carlitz, you guys should chime in here. How do you feel about Trump endorsing Paxton over Cornyn? John Cornyn is a good man. I worked well with him, but he was not supportive of me when times were tough. And despite having the most successful economy in the history of our country during my first term, and with all the many other things that I accomplished, border security, military dominance, Space Force, all-time high stock markets and 401ks, record job economic growth, and so many other things that would be impossible to readily list, which are considered by many to be legendary, John was very late backing me in what turned out to be a historic run for the Republican nomination. And then the presidency itself, both of which were landslide victories and more importantly, gave us the country that we have today, the golden age of America. And when we finish up with Iran, which will not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, you will see numbers that you have never been generated by our country before, as opposed to the disaster of the previous administration. So Donald Trump has weighed in on that election, and I would venture to say that General Paxton, Attorney General Paxton will run away with it. They're going to blow out John Cornyn. John Cornyn is going to come in with 30% of the vote. And the reason is Texans are not going to forget what John Cornyn has done. He worked with Biden on the open borders. He worked with Biden on weaponization of government. He absolutely opposed J6ers and even worked with the J6 committee, as Julie Kelly reminds us when she did a hit on the Benny Johnson show.
Here it is, right from the great X profile of Julie Kelly, who has turned her reporting prowess on these two backstabbers of our movement who would like to see you in prison. I'll say it. You don't have to. I'll say it. They'd be happy to jail you. They were happy that Donald Trump was facing legal troubles. They did victory laps when President Trump faced torturous attacks and lawfare by the left. They're on camera doing it. And you can see here a statement saying that John Cornyn fully supports Nancy Pelosi's 9/11 style witch hunt in order to lie to the American public and in order to lock up his constituents. That's correct. That's insane. Julie, so John Cornyn is actively literally putting the shackles on his own state of Texas Republican voters.
He also, and I posted this, Benny, he also sent a letter to Joe Biden at the end of January 2021, offering to use his position on the Senate Intelligence Committee to help Avril Haines, who is now the Director of National Intelligence. Avril Haines, Benny, is known as one of the quote unquote Obama sisters. Her, Susan Rice, and Lisa Monaco, who is now the Deputy Attorney General. They are close Obama confidants. They all helped concoct the Russian collusion hoax. Avril Haines, an apprentice, an acolyte of Jim Clapper. And here is John Cornyn sending a letter to Joe Biden offering his assistance to help Avril Haines round up so-called domestic terrorists, i.e. Trump supporters. A few months later, Avril Haines, in March of 2021, as her first act of the Director of National Intelligence, issues this bogus report, just like they issued that bogus assessment, remember, in December of 2016, claiming the Russians had helped Donald Trump win. She was involved in that as well. Here she was in March of 2021, issuing this bogus report talking about domestic violent extremists, meaning Trump supporters, who had protested at the Capitol, and promising to use all the power of her 17 different agencies to target J6ers, which is exactly what she did, and her other Obama sister, Lisa Monaco, at Deputy Attorney General. And John Cornyn, a Republican, allegedly, is groveling. I mean, this letter is nauseating, groveling to Joe Biden. Please let me help imprison my own constituents. He just, one of them can, they actually should not only not be leaders of the Senate, they should both be primaried as soon as possible. I believe Cornyn is up for re-election next year.
Yeah, I guess that was an older hit. I thought it was a more recent hit. But that, yeah, Carlite says Cornyn is a traitor and Paxton is attacking my hemp. I know you can't blame everything, can you here? The lesser evil is Paxton just because of the MAGA stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So John Cornyn, right, working with Obama and one of the Obama sisters, Avril Haines, to target Americans, to be a participant in the weaponization of government. Yeah. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump considered him was just because he was playing politics to try to get the Save America Act passed.
Yep.
What he should have done was get it passed, get it signed, and then endorse Paxton. Because the result would have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
The result would have been the same. John Cornyn wasn't going to be there for you in the tough times, no matter what. In fact, the Senate has taken multiple votes on the War Powers Resolution, and it's failed every time until last night. And guess who flipped their vote? Cassidy.
Just a little while ago, John Thune upset with President's decision to pick the Texas Attorney General in the Texas U.S. Senate race. Paid him back tonight. They just held a vote in the Senate just a few moments ago, and the Senate advanced a resolution to rein in the president's power to conduct war in Iran. It is a Pyrrhic victory. It's an optical victory because it's unlikely that this will pass in the House, but we'll see. But it's the beginning of perhaps a larger struggle between President Trump and John Thune. The person who changed votes tonight from an earlier effort at this that failed was Senator Cassidy, Bill Cassidy, who lost his race by finishing third in a GOP primary in Louisiana.
Yeah. So Cassidy flips over and goes, yeah, we have to stop going after Iran now. And John Thune puts it to a vote out of bitterness because Donald Trump endorsed Ken Paxton. The most dangerous time of Donald Trump's presidency is between now and the midterms. It's the most dangerous time because you're going to see anybody who's absolutely committed to opposing Trump, they realize they might not be able to hang on. So they're going to have to act now. This is going to be a big problem. Now, locally, I was mentioned that we were going to talk about this. The DOJ has sent a letter to Washington State because they are going to start investigating, and this is in Gig Harbor, right here locally, right? The prison in Gig Harbor. They are going to start investigating civil rights violations for Washington State's practice of housing transgender inmates with the opposite sex. So if
Okay.
you're a transgender woman, which means you're a man, they're housing you in Washington state prisons. I believe we're up to 14 pregnancies now in Washington state prisons from these transgender inmates, something like that. It's pretty significant. So they're looking at that. This is another one of those ideological breaking points for people, because what's oftentimes happened is, and again, this is just reality, is you have groups that line up to try to advocate for the civil rights of inmates, which, by the way, I support. Because once you're convicted and you're in prison, especially if you have a long sentence, right, you don't have to be punished day after day after day. The box is punishment enough. Food should be healthy and good. You should be able to communicate with loved ones on the outside. I understand limits on phone calls. They're all recorded. I lived through it. Okay. But there are some things that happen in prison that are absolutely atrocious. And so I support prison reform and making it a safe place for people to do their time and think about the consequences of their action. I don't think prison should be a place where you become more bitter at the state. You should see the state is better than we are, treat us better than we treated humanity, and it should be there should be some effort to uplift. But things have been done to remove chaplains and tie their hands, and there's all kinds of stuff.
It shouldn't be the Hunger Games.
It shouldn't be the Hunger Games. And J.D. Vance addresses this in terms of the J6ers, who, for the most part, were completely targeted. And then we were forced to go through this horrible system. But nobody except for our direct activist groups, right, led by Freedom Corner and others stalwarts around the country. Some of you guys listened to the show that supported J6ers and took on the mantle of prison reform.
And I find, just here on this point, one of the interesting things about the American media is there is a fascination. If you go to any American law school, there are these, prisoner rights. There are people who objectively committed heinous crimes, but the American media and the American Legal Academy has decided that even though they committed bad crimes, their sentence was disproportionate. They were mistreated in some way. You know who never, ever gets an ounce of sympathy when it comes to that disproportionate sentencing is people who voted for Donald Trump and participated in the January 6th protest. And
I could go on a video clip tirade of protesters who burnt cars, assaulted cops, and most of them walked away. Here in Seattle, that lady that threw a Molotov cocktail into two police officers'
Peaceful protest.
she got like 2 years. I think she got like a year and some probation, right? Destroying cop cars, Molotov cocktails. I got 7 years for assault with a weapon, which was a bike rack. By the way, I didn't get assault with a deadly weapon. I got that as an enhancement at sentencing, proving his point. Disproportionate sentencing, right? One of the locals here, John Cameron, was the first. He claims he's the first. I actually would dispute this because I don't believe he's checked deeply. But, the first person ever sentenced to prison for picketing. He got 30 days in a halfway house, a BOP halfway house, for picketing. Totally nonviolent, just walked into the Capitol, took a selfie, boom, you're picketing. Political picketing inside of a restricted area. Was it restricted? Who unlocked the doors? Right? So pretty interesting there. Okay. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the future, right? The world is changing. Obviously, when Donald Trump wraps up with Iran, he's promised us the golden age. And what is going to bring about the golden age? It's a confluence of two things. It's a confluence of one, AI, it's going to hurt in the short term. Let's be honest. Lots of people are going to lose their jobs because it's going to be replaced by AI. But just like any industrial revolution, there will be a countersurgence. There will be the creation of new jobs, right? People that normally are running IT call centers are going to become your AI prompters of the future, the people who know how to ask AI the right questions to get the results you need, that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a whole new industries. This is the CEO of NVIDIA who's talking about the potential for AI to really revolutionize the world.
This is a technology that has the potential to automate many aspects of human labor very soon. And I'm curious the degree to which you feel a responsibility for making that transition go well.
What AI will do is to make tasks that we do in our job more efficient. Our job is not to wrangle a spreadsheet. Our job is not to type into a keyboard. Our job is generally more meaningful than that. I'm fairly confident that AI will drive productivity revenue growth, and therefore more hiring. There's a belief that the world's GDP is somehow limited at $100 trillion. Well, what's likely to happen is AI is going to cause that $100 trillion to become $200 trillion, $300 trillion, $500 trillion. There's no fundamental limit to the size of a GDP. And so, and the number of people in the world that is participating in this GDP, in the $100 trillion GDP, is actually quite small. And so what if we brought the rest of the world, the rest of society, the rest of the world's population, empower them with AI, give them the opportunity to participate in the GDP, and cause this GDP to quintuple? I think that's a very likely outcome. And it's very likely that companies will become more prosperous. But it's for certain. This is for certain. Everybody's jobs will change as a result of AI. Some jobs will disappear. Obviously, every single industrial revolution, some jobs are just gone, but a whole bunch of new jobs are created. Everybody will have to use AI, because if you don't use AI, you're going to lose your job to somebody who does.
Yeah. But did you notice how he said where the world economy could go in terms of dollars? What was the number he said?
200 trillion. 200
trillion. Now, our current economy is set up as a fiat system. So where does that money come from?
Thin air.
Thin air.
Can't
Cynthia
you just make
Loomis.
it? I think that we should make it 4 quadrillion. How about that?
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, then you could have like, I need to bring it in here. I have a $500 million bill from the Bank of Zimbabwe. Right? $500 million. What can I buy with it? I looked up the exchange rate on that bill. 37 cents. Okay, 37 cents. It has the buying power of 37 cents. So that is a problem we have. We have increased productivity, which is going to be increased GDP. Most of that money is going to be printed out of thin air. And that's going to cause an inflation cycle that many of us can't even comprehend, right? The devaluing of labor. Your labor, what you're currently doing today, is going to be worth a lot less as AI takes over that. So the world will adapt, because we always do, right? There are going to be new jobs created. Just because we invented cars, all those carriage drivers, those handsome cabs, right, that were in our big cities, they all became taxi drivers, and they became delivery men, and they started doing other jobs. There's a transition time, though, right? I'm sure there's some handsome cab driver out there somewhere that was just cursing the car, thinking, oh my goodness, I can't do this.
Well,
right?
the horse population's complaining.
I'm retiring.
They're all out of work.
Yeah. So we've got things like self-driving semi-trucks. We've got all kinds of stuff coming on that will make human productivity a lot greater. And what this is going to result in, barring something else happening significant, is you're going to see the devaluation of our currency. You're going to see the debasement. Cynthia Loomis, we played this clip the other day. She talked about this directly and why Bitcoin is a hedge on that.
I encourage people to buy and hold. I encourage them to say Bitcoin for their retirement, for their future. And that's because as the Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars and is flooding our economy and the world economy with U.S. dollars, there's no way that we cannot debase the value of the U.S. dollars.
There's no way that we cannot debase the value of the U.S. dollar. And here's an example of that. Japan, the role that Japan plays in the world marketplace is they're kind of like the exchange desk for international currency. Okay, they had a huge inflationary cycle in the 70s and 80s. Things are way overvalued, and so their little niche in the marketplace has been this. When you trade dollars to pounds, a lot of times you go through the yen. You end up buying their bonds, and their bonds have been really, really low for a long time because they committed to this debasement cycle. Okay. And that's it. I lived in Japan, and even back when I lived in Japan 20 plus years ago, right? Like a pack of gum was 15,000 yen or something like that. Okay. So it's pretty crazy, and it hasn't gotten any better. Now they have really favorable exchange rates, or did traditionally, when they came over here. That's why when you go to like Disneyland, it's all these Japanese people running around with their cameras, right? Because their exchange rate was favorable for them as their economy adjusted to those high rates of inflation. Well, if we look at this chart here, stretching back all the way to 1995, the bond yield in Japan has been dropping, which is what has secured their place in the foreign exchange markets as kind of an intermediary currency, because it was very stable. Okay. Now look at what's been happening since.
Well, it got down to 0 in 2019. Wow.
Yeah, it was below 0. It was negative. Oof. And look at where it's at now. They're at 4.5% on their 40-year yield. Their 20-year is 10%. This is forecasting global inflation.
Yep.
What did Cynthia Loomis just say? I advise people to save in Bitcoin. Why? Because you won't be able to save in dollars.
You won't be able to save in anything else.
This trend is a parabolic spike. It's a parabolic spike. Okay. Now, obviously, Donald Trump is aware of this. He himself is a Bitcoiner, and his family are Bitcoiners. And here you go right here. Zero Hedge broke this story yesterday. A breakthrough. White House says strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement is imminent. We will have an announcement, Witt said. I wish I could say more. It's a breakthrough as far as getting everything in place, legally sound and properly safeguarded. It goes on to say, this reserve, the current reserve, holds an estimated 328,327 Bitcoin, roughly 1.6% of the global supply, all of it accumulated through law enforcement seizures, including the Silk Road takedown, the 2020 ByteFX hack recovery, and years of criminal forfeitures. The executive order bars the Treasury from selling a single coin. Oh, but I thought it was worthless, Ron. I thought it was just, the original meme coin. Why would the Treasury not allow the sell of any Bitcoin? Do you think they know something we don't know?
I don't know. I think we both know the same thing.
Yeah. A government Bitcoin hack lit the fire for U.S. government. So they lost about 46 million in Bitcoin that was in United States MS custody accounts late 2025. So they've shored up how they're securing this Bitcoin, because it was being held in, DEA would confiscate some, DOJ would confiscate some, Treasury would confiscate some, and they were kind of being held
decentralized.
Separately. They've now put them all in one spot so they can control it better. It's case in point for why it was necessary the president has established the SBR, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. An executive order dies the moment a new president takes office. That vulnerability is the core argument for two bills now moving through Congress, one of which being the Clarity Act. Representative Nick Blila recently rebranded the Bitcoin Act as the American Reserve Modernization Act, ARMA, which would authorize U.S. Treasury to purchase up to 200,000 Bitcoin per year for 5-year holdings locked for a minimum of 20 years. Senator Cynthia Loomis put Congress on a deadline, pushing for a vote before the summer recess as midterm campaigning begins to consume floor time. If the Bitcoin Act passes, the Treasury's first open market Bitcoin purchase is projected for Q4 2026, making the first U.S. sovereign nation to actively accumulate Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset.
So let's just talk about this from a practical standpoint, just for a real quick second. 200,000 Bitcoin per year. How much Bitcoin gets mined per year?
There's 450 a day.
Okay.
And there's going to be another halving in 2028.
Okay.
So this is the accumulation phase. People who want to be sovereign, countries who want to be sovereign, corporations who want to be sovereign and want to store up their balance sheets from the coming inflation wave, which is going to gobble up Wall Street. New all-time high, new all-time high, new all-time high. Is that company building any more widgets? Why is the value going up? Right? We already know that there's a huge imbalance. All that money is going to want to find a sound and a hard place to land. And that place is going to be Bitcoin in our modern digital information age, where AI is running most productivity.
But they want more Bitcoin than Bitcoin is being produced. So what's going to happen? I mean, they're going to have to buy existing Bitcoin, right?
Existing scarcity. Exactly.
Okay.
So Bitcoin is the first scarce asset. So yes, Ron, that's exactly what's going to happen. As AI increases productivity, real value is going to try somewhere hard to land, because otherwise governments can just print to buy that productivity. Bitcoin is a hedge against that. You can't just buy productivity unless you create the energy that is used for the productivity. You use the excess energy into Bitcoin. It's a perfect match. AI and Bitcoin are a perfect check and balance on each other. It allows us as human beings to then establish a fixed market for the productivity. Otherwise, what will happen is they'll pass a bill that says every poor person in America gets a 95-inch flat screen TV. They'll print the money to fund the bill. They'll pay the factory in China, and those TVs essentially are worth nothing. Right?
Yes, and that is what I was going to say next is, eventually you print enough money that the money is worth zero, but all the while the Bitcoin value holds and increases as everything else drops.
It's the Cantillon effect. The first people to touch the money, if you do a bill for TVs, the factory in China gets all the benefit because they can spend that money at today's rates, today's values. And by the time it trickles down to us, it's worthless. Right. So it's a check on the Cantillon effect, which is why boomers have so much home equity, is they were the first recipients of all this new money that was created after we came off the gold standard. And now they're like, look at all this home equity I have. I'm such a good investor. I'm like,
you guys.
Whatever, right? So this Bitcoin reserve also signals this will be the first major nation state that is turning on the money printer. Where are they going to get the money to buy that Bitcoin, Ron? From the bill they're writing.
Mm-hmm.
They're turning on the money printer, authorizing the Treasury to print as much money as they need to buy the Bitcoin, because someday those dollars will be worthless. So put it in something that will hold value. Signal, not noise, folks.
This might be a good time to do a quick ad here.
Yeah,
so
let's hear it.
Hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's why I use Rebel Wallet. It takes all the complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects you with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, and bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite creators like me directly.
Yay!
So do it now. Scan the QR code. Come on, do it. Or click the link in the description and download the Rumble wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Pew!
It is pretty cool. I do recommend Rumble Wallet. You get to control your keys. You control your Bitcoin. Rumble can't do anything about it. Now, it is a hot wallet on your phone. So ideally, in the end, you need to move it into cold storage. To learn how to do that, because it is technical and a little bit complicated, you should come over to 1776live.us. We're going to be teaching a class on this to teach you from zero, knowing nothing about Bitcoin, to Node Runner, being a part of the network itself and ensuring your personal sovereignty and privacy with your transactions. So that is a good deal. You know, people who are like, well, isn't crypto and Bitcoin just going to bring in the control grid? Crypto will definitely usher in the control grid. But Bitcoin is the way you can interact with that control grid from a sovereign point perspective, right? You could be sovereign with that. So it is the future, whether you like it or not.
And some control grid is probably going to be unavoidable. Sorry.
It's already a control grid.
Yeah.
Right. But it is going to be unavoidable. But now we have to learn and be smart about how to interact with it.
Yep.
And then in the future, you might be one of those guys that helps people do long-term financial planning because you know how to make it so they're not vulnerable to inflation. Even stable coins, which are backed by dollars or U.S. Treasury notes. Well, if they can just print more, then the stable coin becomes worth less. It doesn't fix the underlying core problem with the economy. Bitcoin does. It's a check on what AI is going to do to our economy, which on one hand is going to look like, look at all this increased GDP and productivity. And we, the peasants, are going to go, why does it cost me $9 to buy a pack of bubble gum?
Well, people need to understand that stablecoin does not mean valuable. It just means it's not volatile.
It's pegged to the dollar. That's all it means. All right. Now, if you think MAGA is a strong movement, right? The movement Donald Trump leads. If you think MAGA is a strong movement, what's an even stronger movement and is more financially robust than MAGA, which he who holds the gold makes the
laws.
Rules. Yeah, there you go, laws. He holds the gold, makes the rules, right? If you think the MAGA movement was strong, just wait until the Bitcoiners start flexing their political muscle. Because up till now, Bitcoiners has often been, and I've heard many of them describe themselves as politically atheist, because no one's offering a real solution to real problems. But the Trump administration and Cynthia Loomis and Scott Bessent and Kevin Warsh are starting to offer real solutions.
Well, it's delivered on one important thing. It is a store of value, not too different than gold, right? So it's up 30,000% in the last 10 years. There's very few other assets on the planet have done that. Maybe NVIDIA, they're the ones that make the high-end GPUs that power generative AI. So when I think about what's going on here, it's a $2 trillion market cap. It's not going away. And if you think about why it's gone up of late is because of the promise of deregulation, the leaning in. And I'll just say this, if you think MAGA movement is a strong political movement, just wait until you see these Bitcoiners. This is like one of the strongest financial religious movements that I've ever seen as long as I've been in the business for nearly 30 years. So it's here to stay, and maybe some new regulation will kind of help. And the last thing I'll just say, Zeke, when you think about this, I know you did a lot of work on this. Some of the smartest people that I know in finance and in tech believe in this, and they believe in the technology that's underlying it.
Okay,
it
but
doesn't
two
mean
things
that the
can
government.
be true.
Oh,
okay, that's my
100%.
point. Two things can be true.
Yeah.
There could be real value in it. There could be a real business there, but that doesn't mean that there needs to be a government program transferring $100 billion to it.
And when we talk,
and here we are on the cusp of that.
About smart people being into Bitcoin, is it because they think Bitcoin is like the technology that's going to power the future? Or is it because they were smart enough to realize there are a lot of people who are going to get on the train, feel the FOMO, and buy in? I mean, if you were able to predict that, more power to you. But I don't think the government should be in that business.
Well, I mean, there's no different than people investing in stocks or other illiquid assets.
Former Secretary official, crypto is a scourge. Interesting how things have changed. You can see the media bias against it because they have stock. And the government bias against it, but it's like, this is a movement and it's real.
There really isn't. I mean, if people believe.
Hold on a minute. Beneath that stock are companies that sell products that you can. Okay, ready? Let's give you the Hawk-Tuah girl example. Okay.
Oh, they're comparing the Hawk-Tuah meme coin to Bitcoin.
What?
Talk about not understanding what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But these stocks, they're based in a company that makes real things. Well, what happens when their stock value goes up and they don't make more things? That's telling you there's excess liquidity in the market trying to find a home.
Yeah.
And it's desperate to try to put it somewhere, for example, into a stock. But if the value of the company, the real actual product of the company isn't there, then that's just liquidity looking for a stable home. And once that liquidity figures out that Bitcoin is a stable place, it's a store of energy, it's going to flood in. Our own government has figured this out.
It's going to go there like a heat sink.
Yeah.
A drunk girl outside a bar who becomes famous for a lewd comment, more power to her. Okay. She then launches a coin, is dishonest publicly about action around that coin. The value sinks. And now all these Bitcoin investors want this one.
What's the difference between the Hawk-Tuah coin and Bitcoin? Everything. Right? What have we been saying? There's a difference between Bitcoin and all other cryptos. They are a speculative asset.
The only thing that's similar between them is they both have coin in the name.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. They both have coin in the name. Exactly. It just shows the ignorance that people have been awash with. And for those of us that wake up to Bitcoin, you start to get Bitcoin fever, right? You start to wearing the merch. You buy enough Bitcoin, they give you a free hat, free shirt. It's great.
Yeah,
Just
if
kidding.
you're
I had to
trading
buy
Hawk-Tuah coins, it's kind of like trading Pokemon cards.
It is. But why would the Treasury want Bitcoin? Why would they want a strategic reserve and not a Dogecoin or a Hawk-Tuah coin reserve? Because Bitcoin is real.
Yeah, it's the same reason they're not buying Pokemon cards.
And the government wants to survive this inflationary cycle we're about to go on. It can't not do it. It's just a matter of when. Right. So, yeah, Donald Trump is doing everything he can to create value in the US dollar, to make sure our corporation, the United States of America, has a high GDP, to make sure we have high product output, to make it worth people to hold dollars. But now the underlying value behind those dollars, just like it's supposed to be the gold in Fort Knox, is going to be coupled with Bitcoin.
Yep.
So that's an opportunity for you to get in now, get in soon. You can find a link to the easiest way to buy Bitcoin. If you don't choose to use the Rumble wallet, you can use river.com. We're going to put the link in the chats for those of you that are listening on the chats. We're also the link is in the show notes. So if you click on this podcast and you go down to the show notes, whether you're audio listener, YouTube listener, Rumble listener, or any other place that the show is posted and it has show notes, there's a link down there. In 5 minutes, you could become a Bitcoin owner. create a path between you and the money, just like the United States is creating a path between it and the Bitcoin. Up till now, they've only acquired Bitcoin through criminal seizure. But now they're literally going to turn on the money printer and start buying it outright. There's your sign, folks. There's your signal. All right, we're going to jump over to private, and we're going to talk about insider trading in Congress and in the executive branch of government and what that's all about. So join us over in private.